Thanks, EJ. I'm gonna put this thing right here. Get that out of the way. Today, Joel asked me to speak to a couple of situations that have come up about a couple of islands that we have out there, and so we'll talk about those. Now, DXCC rules, they've long been of interest to me. I've followed this closely since 1960, more or less.
You have to get closer to the mic. You get
Am I not close enough? Let me see if I can raise this thing.
Squeeze that button on there.
There's a button here. Cool. Now I can talk. Is this good? Yeah. That's better? Okay. So, the DXCC to me has always been interesting because it's a study of the political and geographic history of the world since World War II. Political changes and new discoveries have added and subtracted each by a distinct event. There's a few developments here with the islands and their relationship to the DXCC list that I need to probably address today, and we'll talk about those. Now, in a series of articles in House DX in QST in 1978, we discussed the details of the new DXCC 2000 rules. The rules are not that different from what they've always been in the past. They're just better defined in the DXCC 2000 rules. In general, they're just a further explanation of the old rules. This particular column in House DX deals with the island rules. And first of all, we deal with what is an island. That's an island. That's an island. This is not. It must be 100 meters long, or from one end to the other. And as you can see, Scarborough Reef doesn't meet that current definition, but it did meet the old definition, which is one of the problems. Then we discussed how we measure distances. These are circles. If you fall within that circle, you don't count. And you can define as many circles around an island as you need to. Again, there's distance involved, and there's even a greater distance involved. We use DMA maps for the most part, or Admiralty maps to determine all of this, especially when we were doing the DXCC 2000. Now, the two articles are islands that I'm going to talk about today: the Chagos Archipelago and Jarvis Island. Two situations that we need to be aware of, and we will talk about those. First of all, we'll talk about the Chagos Archipelago. For a little history of Mauritius and the status of Chagos, that's the United Kingdom seized Mauritius and its dependencies, which included Rodriguez, Agalega, and St. Brandon, also known as the Cargados, Carajos Shoals, and the Chagos Archipelago in 1810. 4 years later, the French ceded them in the Treaty of Paris of 1814, and the colony also included the Seychelles, which were later separated in 1906. The Seychelles declared independence in 1976. In 1965, the UK separated the Chagos Archipelago from the Mauritius dependency, as well as Aldabra, Farquhar, and Des Roches from the Seychelles, to create the British Indian British Indian Ocean Territory. And the population was forcibly expelled, and Diego Garcia was leased to the United States, and Mauritius itself became independent in 1968. Now, we'll discuss here their position on the 1947 original. This is the original DXCC list. And if you will look there, I gotta learn to work this thing. There's the Chagos Islands on the original list. There's also Mauritius on the original list. So those two island groups have always been on the list since the inception of DXCC. When the Seychelles became independent in 1976, Aldabra, Farquhar, and Desroches were returned to the Seychelles and deleted from the DXCC list. They also came out of the British Indian Ocean Territory. Now, the recent development is that on October the 3rd, 2024, the UK agreed to return the Chagos Archipelago to Mauritius, but reserve the right of sovereignty over Diego Garcia for the next 99 years. Diego Garcia is a joint US-UK military base, and it's of great strategic importance for both countries. You can reach all of Asia with B-52s from Diego Garcia. You can't do that from an aircraft carrier. So it is strategically important. So the question becomes, what might the DXCC status be of Diego Garcia? Should it be deleted? Should it be added? Should it be deleted and added? What should happen? So to find the answer to that question, let's look at its relation to the Carajos shoals and its historical position on the DXCC list. And there you find that it is on the 1947 list, and Mauritius is separate. In 1958, Rodriguez was added, and it's about 75 miles east of Mauritius. By looking at the 1960 DXCC list, you can find they're all still there. This is after the British Indian Ocean Territory was formed in 1968. There's Chagos and Carajos shoals, Mauritius, and Rodriguez. They're all there. So it can be seen from this that Carajos shoal was added in March of 1960, and this is known to us today as St. Brandon and Agalagan. It can be seen from this that when Chagos Archipelago was included, it was considered separate from Mauritius because of distance. So the original founders of DXCC had a pretty good idea that distance was a contributing factor to whether you should be included on the DXCC list. When it was considered in the dependency, it was separate, and after 1965 included in the British Indian Ocean Territory, it remained until October of this year. It was in fact, the Chagos Archipelago was in fact the only thing that was left in the British Indian Ocean Territory. Yet the island hadn't moved, so it remained on the list through all of these changes political changes, even the change of administration in the independence of Mauritius. Today, as you can see on the map, it's a very long distance from either one of the two outlying islands from the main island of Mauritius. It's 1,735 kilometers from St. Brandon, and it's 1,686 kilometers from Rodriguez, which is well more than the 800 kilometers needed for separate status. So there has been no change, no need for a change in all the time that it's been on the DXCC list. And that is something that we don't want to do anything about that, because, you know, if we had to add Diego Garcia again, it's hard to get out there and get on that island. It used to be easy when we had a lot of ships standing by with equipment. Not so much anymore. Now the next island we'll talk about is Jarvis, Palmyra, and what the status of Jarvis should be. If you will look here, this is again the 1947 list, and you will see that Jarvis and the Palmyra group, and as well as Christmas Island, were all on the list in the same location. This is in the Northern Line Islands. Jarvis, even though it seems to be remote from the other islands in the group, is still part of that same island group. Don Greenbaum, N1DG, who's on the recent N5JD expedition, has said that Jarvis should be considered as a separate entity, because he thinks it's in a different island group, which it is not, and that it should be separate. There should be some separation. But we'll look at separation now so that you can understand separation. If you look at these islands here, you'll see that this one can see this one right here, even just a little bit. It's just barely off the tip of the other island. There is no separation here. If you can see a part, even a part of the island from another island, if you can draw a straight line, there is no separation. If you'll notice, these other two islands are separated from the third island and cannot see any part of it. If, for example, this was country A and these two islands were part of country B, then this island here, which is also part of country B, could be considered separate from these two down here. Any separation counts when you're talking about islands. If you've got 10 miles of separation from this island to this island, and you cannot see or draw a straight line to this island and hit any part of the land, then they're separate. Now, when you see Jarvis and its relationship to Kiribati, these are all Kiribati islands. He is maintaining or has said, I think, that in fact, that there is separation. But looking at this chart or map, we can see that really there's not any. You can draw a straight line to Palmyra, or even probably Kingman Reef as well, from Jarvis, and it's only 732 kilometers from Palmyra. So it's not separated by distance, and it's not separated by another island. Even though this might be the exclusive economic zone of Kiribati, in fact, that doesn't count. Only water, water separation does not count. Only land separation will count between the two. So if we refer, well, what did I do there? Maybe that's the end, yeah. If we refer back to that 1947 list, you can see that this has been on the list since 1947, hasn't changed. There's no reason to take it off, and there's no reason to add something for Jarvis Island. So we'll go into just a little bit of that. An island must be separated from its parent by 350 kilometers or more, and from any other island attached to that parent in the same or a different island group by 800 kilometers or more. There's no separation between Jarvis and the other islands. The island is separated by intervening land or islands that are part of another entity, such that a line drawn along a great circle in any direction from any part of the island does not touch the parent before touching the intervening entity. There is no minimum separation distance for the first island entity created under this rule. Addition island entities may be created under this rule provided they are similarly separated from the parent by a different DXCC entity and separated from any other islands associated with the parent by at least 800 kilometers. And we see, again, this is not the case. So that is basically, that concludes what I have today. And if there's any questions,
There's just
yes.
somewhat related but not related, the British India Ocean territories.
Yeah.
With the internet, that was the .io extension for domain.
Yeah.
That is in jeopardy now. So you look at all the things they're using .io, all these changes have been made in October, that may go away.
Yeah, it could.
So there's a lot of amateur radio groups that are like groups.io. They may get a new definition here before long.
Probably they'll move it to a new definition, but they probably won't eliminate the domain.
Yeah, they may want to charge more.
Anything else? Yes.
Hey, Bill, what's the official map that they base all this stuff on? Is there
We use DMA maps for the most part.
DMA? What does that stand for?
Defense Mapping Agency.
Okay.
Also Admiralty charts, which are essentially the same thing. You just buy them from the British instead of buying them from the government.
I see.
But we usually start with 1,000,000 to 1 scale and then work down. Anything else? Okay, thanks.